Hi there, this is Mr. Evans. This video is looking at centralisation and decentralisation, and it's this bullet point here on the specification. So, centralisation is when an organisation's strategic decisions are made by the senior management team and communicating down the organisational structure. So it kind of ties in with the stuff that we've been doing on organisational structure. Centralisation occurs when the central office, the headquarters, the management make a decision and they tell everyone else in the organisation what's going to be done and how it's going to be done. So we'd often tie this in with the kind of tool hierarchy where the managers are in charge and are able to implement decisions quickly. So the pros of centralisation, having one central team of managers making decisions, is that these decisions can be made very quickly. We don't need to go around and consult everyone in the organisation. We don't need to ask them what they think. We make the decision and we get on with it. The managers in this situation are seen as the experts, and therefore they're going to be the best decision makers. So there's an argument. You sometimes see this in schools when a school is in crisis. A new management team will come in and they will just make decisions, bang, 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 sort the school out. Exam results tend to improve quite quickly, and that's because the managers have got the experience to do that. This should lead to consistency across the organisation because everybody should be doing the same thing. The managers have made the decision about what's going to be done. Everyone else's job is to get on with it. And it allows economies of scale to be achieved if sort of purchasing and marketing decisions are made by the head office. So, everyone's buying the same materials because everyone's making the same products because everyone's doing the same thing because the management are making the decision. And if we're all buying the same materials, hopefully we can get cheaper prices on them, and so we get economies of scale. We get to advertise on television because the head office is with a huge budget is making the marketing decisions rather than like a little branch of McDonald's, which probably wouldn't be able to afford to put an advert on TV. So the cons of centralisation are that it's going to be costly potentially to monitor and carry out the decision. Right? We've made the decision as managers. Now we need to make sure that everyone clearly understands what we're telling them to do. We've got to communicate that decision really clearly, and we've got to monitor whether or not that is occurring, which means we need to pay people. We need to have junior managers checking up for us, and that can be expensive. Central managers might not have specific local knowledge, so if we're talking about an organisation with branches all over the country, why should the central team in London or Birmingham or wherever it is make decisions that are going to affect people in Wales and Scotland and so on? And staff lower down the hierarchy aren't given responsibility. They're just told to fulfil the organisation's tasks. So decentralisation is kind of the opposite of that. And we use the terms authority and delegation in this definition when the authority to make strategic decisions is delegated to managers lower down in the organisational structure. So in other words, rather than the central management team making all of the decisions, we say actually, there's merit to letting the junior managers, those who are closer to the actual customer, take decisions for us. So the pros of decentralisation is that the local managers are indeed, have a look at the organisational structure, they're closer to the customers, they're more likely to be interacting with the customers day in, day out, and so might make better decisions than the central management team who are kind of buffered from daily interactions with the customers. If they're not careful, they might not interact with customers directly. Increased responsibility should improve the motivation of staff. Okay, we're listening to them. We're saying, look, you've got the authority. You're the expert here. You know how things run in your area. You make decisions, which should hopefully improve motivation. And also there's less chance for confusion. All right, if the local manager is making the decision, it's really, they're really clear what they want, or they can be very clear with what they want with their staff. So it should be easier to implement decisions as they're going to be better understood. However, it could lead to inconsistency across the organisation. If you've got branches in Scotland and London and Cornwall, well, maybe they're all doing slightly different things. So if I go to this business in Scotland and they're doing something, and then I go to Cornwall and it's not the same, then that could be confusing for me as a customer. It's not great for the brand image. It depends on the skills of managers lower down the hierarchy. So if we're giving people responsibility, we need to make sure that they've actually got the skills to make those decisions. So two different approaches to decision making: centralisation and decentralised decision making, and decentralised decision making. In reality, of course, many businesses will use a little bit of both. So I was living in an area of London that had a large Bangladeshi community, and the local Tesco, the advertising's done centrally. We all know what the Tesco brand looks like, but they've got a world foods aisle that was actually absolutely jam-packed with Bangladeshi food. Now that decision hadn't been made at head office. The decision to allow local managers in the branch to respond to local needs, they've got a certain amount of freedom to order the product that people in their area would like. So, many organisations will centralise some decisions and decentralise other decisions that it makes sense for local areas to do. So often, IT systems, marketing decisions, often big purchasing decisions are made centrally, but like staffing decisions, rotas, some aspects of kind of product to stock will be made within the branch.